Hi friends, I have a doozy for you. Have you ever wondered what fairy tales would be like if an asexual alien who had no concept of the human body wrote it and it was filled with plot holes so gaping that they belonged on well, luckily for you, Holly Roberds has thought of that, and so she wrote Tasting Red. We have no trigger warnings, but the dedication in this book is dedicated to her mom, which is weird, but you do you. So the first chapter is from the POV of the big bad wolf. If you had to name the big bad wolf, what would you name him? Probably something scary or something intimidating or something that sounds strong and tough and grr, right? His name is Brexley. Like your millennial friend that just posted on Facebook she's pregnant and she's naming her kid Brexley. Yeah, his name is Brexley. Our only saving grace is that it's spelled with an L-E-Y instead of an L-E-I-G-H. Anyway, so Brexley Moon is a werewolf and he does not have a pack, which in this world is unheard of because any werewolf that is abandoned or leaves their pack for too long dies. But he's just quirky like that. He's a loner. He doesn't fit in.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in. Have you ever seen me without this stupid hat on? That's weird.
And he has no ties to anyone except for one person, or one werewolf, and it's the only being on Earth that he owes a favor to. And this werewolf's name is Jameson. Jameson has called Brexley into the tavern that he owns, and Jameson is calling in his one favor. He wants Brexley to end someone. So he slides over a manila folder with all of the information regarding the person he wants to no longer be breathing. And the person in the folder is Grandma. Everyone calls her Grandma. So Jameson says, "You are the big bad wolf. My grin is half grimace, and that is very bad news for grandmas right now." Second chapter is from Red's POV, who is, you guessed it, Grandma's granddaughter. Red is studying in a cafe because she is in college, and a man who recognizes her from the bar that she works at, like, walks past her and grazes her arm or something, and she goes feral. Knees weak, arms heavy, panties wet already, feral. My chair scoots back with a loud metal shriek. The second he's out of my reach, my body dramatically wails, wanting to be touched, wanting more touch everywhere. But I've cooled it. I regained control. So once a month, Red gets indescribably horny, like so down bad, and wants to bone any living creature alive, and she has no idea why, and she doesn't tell anyone. And then there's a bunch of exposition about how she used to go to magic school because her grandma is a mage, but she does not have any magical powers, so she ended up dropping out and then going to normal mortal college and doesn't want anyone to know and wants everyone to think that she's just a normal girl, and it's very boring. So the school is coming up on a long holiday weekend. It doesn't say what holiday, but it's a long weekend. So Red is going to go visit her grandmother. So she catches a train, and on the train, the ticket master asks for her ticket.
These are not tickets.
And she jumps because she had her headphones in, and he says, "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. You can scare me any day," I say in a way that suggests something else entirely while I hold out my ticket for him to scan. I lick my lips, and one of my shoulders pops up to make for a seductive pose. So down bad. What? A line of confusion forms between his brows. Gah, I hate this time of the month, and I hate the effect it has on me. Embarrassment smothers the other feelings whipping around inside of me. I can't tell if it's getting worse as I get older, or if Goldie is starting to have way too much of an influence on me. Goldie is one of her friends. So she gets to Grandma's house, and there's no security guards there, which is very odd, because Grandma's so famous that she needs security guards all the time. I send the black floating staircase to check if she's upstairs. I wonder what she'll think of my new nose ring and all of the stud earrings that line my ears. All of them are gold since I rash out with silver jewelry. My tattoos are hidden from view, not to mention a couple other piercings she will never see. Anyone with a brain, would you like to take a guess as to the secret plot twist at the end of this book regarding Red, who goes very emotional and feral and has all kinds of things going on once a month and also rashes out to silver? But anyway, so she makes it to her grandma's room. She's not in there. And then a large man walks out of her grandma's bathroom. The thick knit sweater pulls against his muscular chest and shoulders down to the taper of his stomach. Fabric strands unravel into small holes here and there. Voluminous silver hair, dark at the roots, falls just above his shoulders. His beauty is layered in complexity. 4 scars, long healed, run down one eye and split his eyebrow. The dark scruff on his strong jaw only adds to his air of masculine power and ruggedness. This man is utterly magnetic, and my body wobbles, wanting to find safe shore in those strong arms. The gray orbs under his scars scan me up and down. They emanate danger, violence, and sex. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he looks like he wants to eat me up. And with the intense vibrations running through my body, I'm liable to let him. Instead, I state the obvious. You're not my Gigi. Back to Brexley's POV. So Brexley has broken into Grandma's house to try to murder her, and as he's walking out of the bathroom, there is Red. She would look like every other pretty girl her age if it weren't for her fire engine red hair. Even more intriguing is, I can't detect any hint of chemical dye most would use to get their hair that shade. No, she smells fucking incredible, like honey, cinnamon, and sex. It evokes a strange response in my body. I instantly want to tear off her rumpled clothes and bury myself in her. You are seeing this girl for the first time, ever, and your first response is that you want to shove your dick in her. Okay. So Red says, you're not my Gigi. I'm just gonna say grandma. I hate that. You're not my grandma. I'm not. The words are out of my mouth before I can even think about it. Are you trying to tell me that you are my grandma? Just gone through a few changes? Why grandma? I never noticed what big eyes you have. All the better to see you with. And what big, her eyes sweep over my shoulders, down my abdomen, muscles you have, grandma. All the better to hug you with, my dear. And grandma, what big shoes you have. And he starts to make a all the better to joke. And then Red is apparently done with the joke and she wants to know if he is her new security detail. And Brexley completely takes advantage of the situation and says, yes, your grandma sent me. I'm your new security detail. So she says, what's your name? And internally, to himself, Brexley thinks, I'm the big bad wolf and I'm going to eat you right up, little girl.
I almost puked, but let me stay focused.
Disgusting. And so Brexley decides the best thing to do in this situation he's created for himself is to put his arms on either side of her and back her up against the wall. And she asks him not to touch her because she can't control herself because it's that time of the month, but not that time of the month, a different time of the month. And instead of listening to her, he brushes his thumb on her face and she moans, like full on sexual encounter moans. The moan that slips from her mouth is sin and sex. It morphs into a growl. She juts her arms out and I'm launched back. At first I think the girl is angry. Red's face is arranged in a snarl, her eyes wide. And then she rips off her sweater and shirt underneath it in one fluid move, leaving her in the ugliest nude bra I have ever seen in my life. And then they fuck on her grandmother's bed. So Little Red Riding Hood and the big bad wolf are having coitus on top of her grandma's bed, and then the big bad wolf releases inside of her. Before the reality of my having unprotected sex with a stranger can get its footing in my brain, the bedroom window shatters in a violent explosion. 2 boots hit the ground with a crunch. So a dude breaks in through the window. He has magical ice powers or something, and he says, where is it? And they say, where is what? And he wants to know where the recipe is. And then he tries to murder them. So to protect himself and to protect Red, Brexley turns into a wolf because he can do it at will, I suppose, and schmurders him instead. During all of the schmurdering activities, Red has run back to her apartment in Boston where she goes to school, and she does mention that she picked up a Plan B pill on the way home. Lovely. I was very concerned. The need to turn around and go straight back into the apartment and pull out my helpful friend from the bedside drawer to work off some of this extra energy hits me hard. Seriously, what is wrong with me? Grandma is missing, someone tried to kidnap me, and I'm still thinking of getting railed by the security guard. What is wrong with you? So Red, later that night, goes to work as a bartender at a bar called the Poison Apple, and her best friends Goldie and Cinder are bartenders with her. And apparently, because they all dress with the same aesthetic, Goldie, Red, and Cinder are known as the Lost Girls. When I turn back around with the round of shots, I nearly choke on my own tongue. I'm face to face with the very person I'm thinking of. Brexley casually leans against the counter. His intense gaze delivers a stab of arousal straight to my gut. People nearby can't help but steal glances at him. I wonder what they notice first, his scars or sex god energy. A knowing smile plays at the corners of his lips as if to say, hello, remember me? I've been inside of you. Top tier writing. And so Red gets unbearably horny just from seeing some guy named Brexley. And her inner monologue, she states, fuckity fuck nutting nuts. Huh? She asks him to leave. He does leave, miraculously. And then when she goes to leave her shift at the Poison Apple, he is waiting for her outside and tries to follow her to her apartment. On your way to Grandma's house, Little Red, I ask, falling into step with her. And she says, what are you doing here? And he says, I'm staying with you. I'm your bodyguard. I'm here to protect you. I needed to be near her. To find Grandma, to kill Grandma, I insist to myself. But I feel like a drug addict in withdrawal. I want to bury myself in her again, make her scream and shudder until she passes out. So he walks her home, and she says, I'm home, you can leave now. And he insists that he needs to come inside with her. That's right, little girl, let the big bad wolf in your house. So Red asks Brexley how he even found her in the first place, and he says, I have a particular set of skills. So he goes inside of her apartment, they're hanging out, they start talking, and Brexley realizes that, oh my god, he's starting to care about her, even though they've had a total of maybe 20 minutes of interactions, and 15 minutes of it was them bumping uglies like rabbits. I take a step back, this is too much. I'm in danger of actually caring about this girl. For which tit's sake, I met her mere hours ago. There is no accounting for this. It gets late, they decide they need to sleep. Red goes to her bed, Brexley lays on her couch, and at some point later in the night, neither of them are sleeping, and he hears her groan from her bedroom, hears her bedside drawer slide open, and then hears buzzing. I find myself pressed against Red's door, my hand splayed across peeling paint. My fingers curl until my nails dig into the wood. Fuck my life, I'm so hard I could drill a hole in this door with my dick. Submitting to my need, I unfasten my pants and pull out my rock-hard cock with one hand. I stroke my length with an almost punishing grip, while the nails of my other hand continue to dig into the door. My hand slides up and down my cock at top speed. When I return to my senses, some of the fire drained from my blood, I realize what a fucking mess I'm in. Not just because I marked her door and need to clean that up as soon as possible. When I look up, I realize my nails turned into claws at some point and I've scratched 4 long, deep gashes into her door. It looks like an animal tried to claw their way in. You did. Next morning, they don't really acknowledge the cum or scratches on her door and they just go about their business. While they're out studying, they are spotted by Red's friends Goldie and Cinder, and they want to know everything about him. After they get back to the apartment, they are discussing what they should tell her friends, and since Red does not want to know anyone that she's related to Grandma or that she is related to like powerful witches or famous people or anything, they can't know that he is her bodyguard. I need to stay close for the foreseeable future, and you say I act possessive. Tell them I'm your boyfriend. So that's what they do. While the two of them are at a cafe and Red is studying, they think there's an earthquake happening. I turn around. 2 massive trunks in a gray-green hue lumber towards us. The pair of elephantine legs belong to an ogre, and it's headed right toward the cafe. This isn't a coincidence. This is another attack. Worst of all, a mottled schwang hangs between his legs, and he doesn't have a single stitch on. Schwang. They try to leave. The ogre grabs Red, picks her up, and so Brexley turns into a werewolf and tries to attack him, but ogres have really thick skin, I suppose. So he decides to run in between the ogre's legs like my dogs love doing to me, and so the ogre trips and falls on a statue and gets impaled and dies. And Red's response to this is to say, fuck nuggets. Brexley makes a smartass comment about trying to save her cute ass, and she says, you think my ass is cute? He says, I don't know, turn around, let me see it. And she says, you're a pig, Brexley. And instead of doing anything productive or flirtatious or attractive, He says, "I'm the big bad wolf, baby." A few days later, they are in the library so that Red can study. Half of this book is her studying and then things happening. And Red sees a couple go into the stacks of books thinking that no one can see them and start doing couple things and just keeps watching them like a fucking weirdo. And she gets very hot and bothered by this because it's still that time of the month. Oh, Feylords, my own fingers tap on my upper thigh, dangerously close to where I want friction. But alas, Brexley walks up again and asks how she's doing, and she's all flustered. So they leave. She runs straight into her bedroom, does not pass go, gets out a vibrator, and just slams it on her clit. And then she hears the door open. Do you need help, pet? They've made a rule that he can't touch her due to her predicament. So he says, but I can call you names. And he calls her a cum slut. And while he's talking dirty to her until she arrives at her destination, he decides to pull his schwang out and try to get to his destination as well. My, what a big dick you have. All the better to fuck you with, my dear. They both arrive, and then in the afterglow, he slams the door shut and leaves the apartment. I don't know, they end up going to the Poison Apple, and while they're there, Goldie decides to tell Brexley that Red was dating one of her ex-bodyguards from her grandma, and then he broke her heart because he didn't want to publicly date someone who could not do magic, and Brexley wants to kill him immediately. And then, surprise, surprise, this guy that broke her heart shows up and takes her aside and wants to talk to her privately. And he tells her, his name is Hunter, by the way. Hunter tells her that her grandma has gone underground because there's someone hunting her for this new recipe that she has created that is too powerful and that humans should not be able to have, but she believes that humans should be able to have it. But then Brexley shows up, and Brexley knows that this is the man that broke her heart, so he wants to hurt him. And he also is jealous that this guy has had schmecks with Red, so he grabs Red's waist to make him jealous. And then Red thinks in her inner monologue, "Damn you, traitorous coochie." And this has gotten Red so worked up that she goes into the bathroom, locks the doors, hikes her skirt up, and just starts going at it in the bathroom of her place of employment. And from outside of the bathroom door, Brexley says, "Oh, Red." His words come out half teasing, taunt, half blatant need. "Let the big bad wolf in and I'll take care of that aching little cunt." And she gets scared because she has emotions about Hunter, and she thinks that Brexley also does not want anyone to know that he is attracted to her or something. So she books it out of the bar. And so Brexley chases her. I don't know, they talk it out and then they go back to her apartment. They end up talking about why it didn't work out with Hunter, and she says that she has needs that he couldn't fulfill or wouldn't fulfill. So the boy is vanilla as fuck then, Brexley says. What did you ask for that he wasn't willing to give? His voice drops to a gravelly tone that curls in my most intimate parts. Did you ask him to say dirty, filthy things to you? Did you ask him to lick where you need it most? I'm sure the pretty boy can't be bothered. He wouldn't know how to properly lick the cream off of a cone if it was his favorite flavor and it made him explode in his pants. When did it become taboo or like not vanilla to eat out your girlfriend? Okay. And so she vaguely tells him about her issue, but she doesn't say that it's like once a month. She just says that she has needs that she can't control and that most people can't handle. Brexley curls his tongue behind his teeth, leaning in until he is mere inches from me. His face twists in a snarl, eyes sparkling in dark delight. Oh, little Red, now I'm going to have to eat you up. So they forego the no touching rule. My fingers catch on her ring and I tweak and twist at it mercilessly. Fucking ow! You think I can't handle you, pet? I'm the only one who can. And then instead of just like rough schmecks, she punches him in the face over and over again, and he takes it. So they just kind of beat the shit out of each other while having sex. So at this point in the book, Brexley still wants to kill Grandma. and he is still convincing himself that he's only hanging out with Red as a way to get to Grandma while constantly digging inside of her and protecting her and saving her from harm. And she's caught feelings, he's caught feelings. So I don't know. It's very dumb. Once again, Red is studying and she's taking practice tests for a very hard class that she's in, and she's getting frustrated because she's not doing well. And so he says, "Let me help you relax," and makes her come umpteen times. And then magically after that, she's able to focus and then aces the test. And he's like, "See, I told you I can help you. Are you gonna go into the classroom with her and like hide under the desk and finger her while she takes the test?" Anyway, while they're walking to the poison apple one night, two shadowy figures emerge, and Red is freaking out because these are two of the people who bullied her the most when she went to magic school. It's Hansel and Gretel. Hansel and Gretel each have a power. Hansel's is to take all of the fluid out of someone's body and make them very dehydrated and very thirsty. Gretel's is to take all of the food and sustenance out of someone's body and make them very hungry. Or they can do vice versa and like add it back. So Hansel and Gretel emerge and they tell Red that they need the recipe and that they were secretly the ones sending all of these monsters after her. Hansel and Gretel end up at the poison apple and fuck some shit up, so Red is forced to tell Goldie and Cinder about her secrets that she's been keeping from them, that her grandma is her grandma and she's magic, but she's also not magic, and blah blah blah, whatever. Later that night, Brexley wakes up in the middle of the night on Red's couch and he smells fire. Someone lit a fire outside of her apartment door. They both escape from the fire escape, and Brexley calls a driver that he has, and he takes them to a very luxurious house that Brexley owns. And just from his house, Red guesses that he is a mercenary, and then he says yes. They start kissing and start canoodling even, and Brexley sees something flash in her eyes that we've only at this point seen happen in werewolves. Oh my god, surprise, surprise, who would have guessed it from like the second page of the goddamn book? It is the night of the full moon, and Red says, "Tonight is the night that my episode is ... I'm nearly ready to crawl out of my skin." So Brexley freaks out because they cannot do the canoodling tonight, because two werewolves on the night of a full moon that do canoodling will end up being mated, and then that creates a pack, and if you're away from your pack, you die. And he's so quirky and different that he can't have people that he relies on, otherwise that'd ruin his tough guy image. And so he tells her this, and she is not as freaked out as she should be, and then he chains her up and decides to still help her with her urges with his hands and various other tools. And it's very weird. And they do this all night. And then the next morning, she goes and takes the test that she was practicing for in the library the day before. Following night at the Poison Apple, she is cornered by the dumpsters by Hansel and Gretel, and they like take her water away and give it back to her and starve her and then refeed her over and over again until she's like on the brink of not being alive anymore. And she passes out, but then Brexley finds her and he picks her up and takes her home. And then he calls a very powerful healing mage to heal her. And then, while she's in recovery, Brexley tells her the story of how he got ostracized from his werewolf pack. "I was out chopping and gathering wood for my mother when I saw her. A woman came through the woods like fire on snow. Her hair was red, like yours. She was a mage. When I asked her why she was out in the Alaskan wilderness, she said she was looking for someone she lost. While she helped me carry the wood back to my pack, she asked about my studies. We homeschooled in the pack, and I was very much into ... classical literature. It was part of our English studies, but for a wolf like me, it wasn't considered an alpha quality. Even my mother would take my books away and shove me outside to go hunting. Then this woman pulled a book out of her coat and gave it to me right there. She said it was one of her favorites. She wanted me to lead her back to my pack. I warned her they didn't like outsiders, but she was certain they would help her find who she was missing. I left her at the center of our settlement to unload the wood at the back of our cabin. Then I heard the screaming and roars. I ran back to find the Alpha towering over the woman, about to deliver a killing blow. Before I knew it, I jumped in the way and took the Alpha's hit. He pulled back just enough not to kill me. Even bleeding and unable to see out of one eye, I got back up and told the Alpha he couldn't kill the woman. Already angry, he became incensed, screaming that I chose a human over my own kind. Then the book she gave me fell out of my coat. I said she was kind, but that only made things worse. He ripped the hardcover volume in 2 pieces. It took me years to find that book again and finally read it. The Alpha proclaimed I'd committed the ultimate betrayal, and I clearly didn't respect the pack or how things are done. Then he ordered me out of the way so he could kill the woman. My own mother watched this happen and did nothing. What about your father? Red asks. The Alpha was also my father. So Brexley tried to protect this lady, and then he ended up getting knocked out. The pack killed this woman, and then he got dumped and left to die, because without your pack, you die. That's the werewolf rules. I could hunt and fend for myself in the absence of my pack connection, but I was wasting away. I traveled south, closer to the towns of Man. Finally, I crossed paths with another hunter, a werewolf. But he had no pack. I was near death and he took me in, showed me how to survive like he had. To survive as a lone wolf, one must avoid all connections. He wasn't my family or even my friend. He simply taught me how to survive. And this person is Jameson. That's why he owes Jameson a favor. Red falls asleep, and while Brexley is watching her sleep like a weirdo, he comes to the realization that he cannot kill Grandma because he cares about Red too much. The next day, Red leaves to go do something, and when she gets back, both of them are nearly in tears because being away from each other hurt so much. And they come to the realization that they accidentally mated, even though he didn't stick his schwang in her, but they're mated anyway. Why, Red, what a big heart you have. All the better to love you with.
Disgusting!
Aw, I'm going to puke. And then they have schmecks. And then after they have schmecks, Red gets a call from the owner of the Poison Apple, and she tells her that she did a background check on Brexley, and somehow, through a background check, she found out that Brexley is a mercenary. So Red's like, yeah, we've been known. But then she also tells her that through a background check, she found out that Brexley has been hired to kill Red's grandma. So she goes right downstairs and confronts him immediately. And she's like, you're here to kill my grandma? And it's the classic, no, it's not like that. Well, it was at first, but then I changed my mind. And then she doesn't believe him. And then she slaps him and then she leaves. And then so she calls her friends to meet her at the Poison Apple. While they're at the Poison Apple, a delivery is made to Red. It's a box of cookies from her grandmother. And suddenly, everything clicks in her head. So Hansel and Gretel knew that she was going to be receiving a recipe or a special package because they hacked into her grandma's emails, and she sent an email to her assistant to send Red the special package. But the special package is actually just normal ass cookies that her grandma sends her every month. And then that got interpreted as being the secret recipe, and this is the most unsatisfying answer to a mystery in a book that I have ever read in my entire life. But then, as they're figuring this out, Hansel and Gretel are outside and call them to come outside so they can have a big showdown. So Hunter, the ex-security guard that she was in love with, was hired by Hansel and Gretel to keep Brexley away from them, and now she's betrayed, I guess, because he didn't already betray her before. But then they hit Brexley. Brexley is bleeding out, on the verge of not being alive anymore. And suddenly an energy explodes from Red in the shape of a wolf head, and it starts eating the twins, but not really eating them. It's eating the magical power out of them. And she secretly does have power, but it took until she was in a life or death situation, or someone that she cares about was in a life or death situation, for her powers to manifest. I guess. If it weren't for the crackling pop rock sensation in my lungs, I would smile. Red's a level 5 mage, one of a handful in the world, because of course she is. And right before Brexley passes out, succumbs to the darkness, he says, "My, what big powers you have," and then everything fade to black.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Red gets Brexley back to his house, calls the same medical magical mage that healed her before. I don't know why we were worried in the first place. So he's all better. But then Jameson shows up, the guy that hired Brexley to kill Grandma, and he has Grandma. So they reveal, I don't know why Jameson and Grandma were together, but they come in and they reveal that the reason Jameson was also without a pack was because he fell in love with a human, and then the human moved into the pack, and then the human got pregnant but didn't tell him. And the alpha of the pack told her to leave or he was going to kill him, I think. So she left and went to her grandmother's house. And she didn't take him with her because he would die without his pack or something, okay? And this woman ended up a few years later realizing that he could make a new pack with her and his daughter that he doesn't know about. So she went back to the pack and ended up stumbling upon a little child werewolf who is Brexley. So Red's real dad is Jameson. So he no longer wants to kill Grandma, and Red is half werewolf, which we've been known. And the reason her powers didn't manifest was because her werewolf side was suppressing it or something. And now everyone is one big happy family. They made a pact together, and that is the end of the book. I've never been so uninterested in a story and turned off by smut at the same time in my entire life. And all of the cuss words being replaced with like fuck nuggets or witches tits. Like, you're already saying the cuss word, just say the cuss word, please. But anyway, that's the end of the book. If you would like me to review a book of your choosing, I will have a Google form linked in the description. You can request a book. I also have memberships turned back on. If you would like to support the channel, there will be a button by the subscribe button where you can join the membership. The only perk is really that you'll be part of a cool club and I'll say your name at the end of a video. I will also have all of my other socials and everything linked down in the description if you want to stay connected. Thank you so much for watching, and special thank you to my one member, Papa Electrician, aka my dad. Hi dad, thank you, I love you. I'll see you next time.